Their business acumen is staggering. Their wealth is subject of envy. But behind the money, the notoriety, and the often unwanted attention is a sense of purpose, to help those in need, to build a legacy to be proud of. This is a series that delves into the lives of those who give. This is The Philanthropists. Hi everybody, I'm Ralph Benmergui. Welcome to The Philanthropists, an ongoing series about people who give. This time we're going to Vancouver to talk to Gary Segal. Gary gives in an individual way and in larger organizations. Hi Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful this sunny day in Vancouver.
Ah, it's nice to have a sunny day in Vancouver.
Yes.
You don't get many of those.
Without the smoke much.
Exactly. No, don't rub it in. I wanted to start not about you, but about your dad. I wanted to ask you how your dad shaped you as a philanthropist.
Well, he had an instrumental role in shaping me as a philanthropist. My father did. He, from as young as I can remember, my father, together with my mother, were fantastic examples of, doing good and giving back to community right from the early days. Many events at the house and eventually as I got older, ones that I attended outside the house. And it continued the rest of the life. And my father was a brilliant man, a wise man, a caring man, and so his example stuck with me, and I absorbed many words, thoughts of wisdom from him over the course of my life.
So, it's one thing to watch your parents do something good. Was there a conscious effort on your parents' part to talk to you about what they were doing and about how you should be doing it too?
Not so much. It was more teach by example. We talked about it, but I used to have my grandparents would come over on Sunday nights. My grandmother on my dad's side, and on my two grandparents on my mother's side, and there was heated debates, about community and what should be done, and so I kind of by osmosis I listened and got a feel for all that.
So when it comes to giving, what's your philosophy about giving itself and why you do it?
Philanthropy itself, I think the word kind of means love of humanity, and I think one thing I always learned from my parents, my father, he always would say, remember, there but for the grace of God go I, and count your blessings, and that stuck with me. I kind of felt from an early age, when I saw a sad thing or heard a sad thing, it kind of had that natural feeling of empathy in me, and it stuck with me, and I wanted to emulate what my parents did, but in my own way. But certainly, it always stuck with me. He said you got to take care of the young, the old, and the infirmed, and those that can't help themselves.
So when you did that your own way, what did that look like?
It started with my kids going to elementary school, Talmud Torah, and getting involved with the board and the executive of that. And then it morphed into my first house that I bought, a small house that I renovated, happened to be 2 doors down from the Louis Breyer Seniors Home and Hospital here in Vancouver. And they would come up and down the streets, walking in the warmer weather, some in wheelchairs. And my father had been involved in that seniors home and hospital as well. And so eventually it just felt natural. I was asked to go on the board, and I did for 10 years on that board, and president for 4. And it just gave me great joy to feel that I was doing something for our seniors. The measure of a society is really how you treat your seniors. Some don't do it very well, but they deserve to be certainly given our utmost respect and care And then I was asked to get involved in something that was under the radar, Ronald McDonald House here in Vancouver. And I didn't know much about it. It would often get confused with Canuck Place, which was a hospice for kids. But I said, I'll go down and take a look and see. And immediately when I saw what it did for the kids, for families going through some of the worst moments in their lives with a seriously ill child needing care at the Center of Excellence here in Vancouver, BC Children's Hospital, you know, uprooted from family, from home, from where am I going to stay, how am I going to survive, you know, while we're going through this terrible time with our child. And it spoke to me immediately, and that became a real love of my life. For 6 years on the board, and the privilege of chairing the capital campaign to build, take it from a 13-room house to a 73-room house, because there were hundreds and thousands of families being turned away. And that opened in 2017, and it's been full ever since, and it will always be part of my heart. Other things were, you know, going over to study in Hebrew University for second year. That was a life-changing moment for me that I think shaped my life and my future path of charity after that. You know, I had that was 71, 72. Summer of 72, I had 3 months after studying there, being exposed to the global world of Israel and surrounding countries. And I spent 3 months going through East Africa on the way home, the summer of 72, with a dear friend of mine from Vancouver and 2 Americans we became friendly with. And that was, you know, adventurous travel, being in Uganda, the summer of 72, the day that Idi Amin declared that all the Indian Ishmaelis had to leave the country. I was there that day, you know, pretty crazy, wild time. You know, Idi Amin, very bad man, killing hundreds of thousands of his own people. So that kind of whet my appetite for that. Came home, finished my next 2 years of study at UBC, and decided to take a year traveling through Asia. You know, a lot of people go to Europe. I decided I wanted to see the developing world before it got spoiled and changed by tourism. And that was an eye-opening adventure, traveling through Asia, you know, being in Laos, for example, during the war when Vietnam was collapsing, and I was there in January of 75, and traveling through all those countries, including getting into Lebanon during the Civil War. I seemed to, you know, maybe attract danger or like to follow danger. I don't know. So
I think so. You know, you would have made a good foreign correspondent.
Yeah.
You go to all the hot spots.
Maybe. I was literally shot at going down the Mekong River, sitting on the top of a little boat after being stranded for 10 days in a small village, sleeping with novice monks on the hilltop, you know, waiting for the water level to get high enough for a boat to go downstream to the capital, Vientiane. But we were my friend and I, on the top of the boat in our sleeping bags, and the Pathalao were taking pot shots at us as we went downriver. So things like that, you know, and that, so then I came home, and, you know, I ended up going to law school, and then practiced law, and eventually joined up with family office and started working next to my father, which, you know, he wasn't always around when I was a kid. He was so busy building a life for the family. But I more than made up for that in my adult years, starting working with him in 1985, and right up until his passing, sadly, last May 31st.
You know, it must be kind of strange to go out in the world and to really, you know, get in there and then come back to the comfort of home and look around and think, I'm not sure people appreciate what we have here. Did that happen to you?
Oh, definitely. You're so right. So, you know, traveling that year, as I said, through Asia, with a backpack and sleeping in mud huts, and you know, just traveling that way, seeing you know, the poverty in the world, yet also seeing people able to be happy in situations where they don't have some of the fundamental necessities of life. but they're still happy, maybe happier than us with all of our material trappings. But all those travels had a huge impact on me, and really, I would say, really led to shaping my life of the last 16 years with, in terms of a remarkable global charitable experience that I've been going through. I don't know if you know anything about that, but
Yeah, tell me about how this goes global for you. What does it look like?
you know, it's interesting. The whole question of life, is it chance? Is it destiny? What happens? I kind of think it's a combination of both. I think as long as you have an open heart and mind to new experiences, you know, and put yourself on a path, who knows where it's going to lead to. And it's not always a straight path, you know. Life is a meandering path, really. And I think that early exposure with CFHU and then traveling through East Africa and then a year through Asia, you know, I wanted to keep that. That made me feel really alive and energy and at a not new and a sense of, what's the word, experience in life that I just had to keep going in my life, it seems. And then an opportunity came in 2007 to go on a Jewish Federation trip from Vancouver, a small group, to go over to Israel and Ethiopia and learn about the work they're doing in terms of the story of getting an Operation Solomon, getting the Ethiopian Jews out to Israel over those 3 days of flying in stripped out 747s and cargo planes to get them. That was during the overthrow of the communist government in '71. So I went to follow that story and fly with families that were now still continuing to get to Israel from Ethiopia. And I met an interesting little doctor, an amazing man named Dr. Rick Hodes. And I have to say, he changed my life. Look, I've had a few inspiring people in my life. Number one, my parents, but Rick changed my life.
How?
You know, he was an internal medicine doctor. He'd worked in the famine in '85 and went back and taught on Fulbright fellowships. And in 1990, he applied to JDC, that's the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. I don't know if you know about them, been around since 1914, world-leading organization for humanitarian relief in the Jewish world. I hadn't heard anything about them. You know, they say the best kept secret in the Jewish world, except on this first trip in 2007. The first time I heard of them. So Rick became the chief medical officer for their work in Ethiopia. So they do Jewish relief work and non-Jewish. And so Rick was in charge of the health of the Jewish Ethiopians going to Israel while they were waiting, and also the non-Jewish ones in the surrounding area. And he was a spiritual man, a Jewish man, didn't grow up that way. But he became observant, and he decided to observe the Jewish Sabbath by volunteering a Mother Teresa mission in Addis Ababa. And that's what he did. And he was an internal medicine doctor, but one day he found 2 young boys with severely deformed spines, like total horrible curvature. And he didn't know much about spine, but he decided, you know, he knew that if they didn't get help and surgery, they would meet an early death. They just wouldn't live long. And so, like any normal doctor, I'm being facetious, he decided, maybe if I adopt these 2, I can get them on my American medical insurance and get them surgery in the United States. Single young doctor, decision for life to do that, he knew, but he said, God gave me the opportunity, how can I say no? And that's what he did. He adopted them, they got surgery in the States, came back, he adopted 3 more kids that needed help, and then he started bringing kids that needed help. You know, he was dealing with spines and hearts, and taught himself basic oncology, and would bring, and eventually had 15, 18, 20 foster kids living with him at any given time in his rented bungalow in Addis Ababa. And that's what he's been doing since 1990. And that spine program started growing. And I saw a young man testify who had a terribly bent spine. You could tell under his shirt. And I said, Rick, is he going to get surgery in Ghana? And Rick said, unfortunately, he's been there 3 times, but was turned away on the last time, ready to operate. But the anesthesiologist thought that it was too risky. They didn't have a good ICU at that hospital, and I was afraid he would get post-op complications and not live through them. So there I was in the presence of Dr. Rick Hodes, saving the world one life at a time. I said, least I can do is try to save this one young man. And that's what happened. It became my mission the next year to get him surgery in Vancouver. And many sleepless nights, but eventually got the approval. And Tesfaye, that's his name, means my hope in Amharic language. He landed on May 20, 2009, on his birthday, according to his passport. And spent 3 weeks with us in our house before surgery, getting education, having a bit of fun and testing at the hospital. Then I wheeled him in June 12, 2009. And 5:30 in the morning, they took him out, and 14 hours later, he came out of surgery. And he got those complications. He came down with pneumonia, couldn't clear his lungs, ended up in ICU for 2 weeks on a breathing tube, in the hospital for a month on a feeding tube. But he got through it and lived with us for another 4 or 5 months, and then went back to Ethiopia. And that was October 2009. And he went from, he had a spine like a dinosaur, you know, curved like that.
Right.
And he was destined for an early death, but very complicated surgery. He got through it, as I said. One of the highlights of my life, this was a very different charitable experience. You know, you can write checks, you know, you can give of your time, but this was bringing something totally into your personal life. And we always talked about me being with him for the first time that he went back to his village for his family to see him standing straight, the family in the village. And I really wanted to do that. He went back the end of October, and then he called me up. So this is a young man that went from knowing no English, by the time he went home after 6 months in Vancouver, you know, he knew, I got him a tutor. He knew his way around the internet. He had Facebook and a Gmail address, part of the modern world.
Let me ask you something. Saving the world by saving, the old Jewish saying, you save the world entire when you save one soul. But is there a point where you go, I can't do this one person at a time. I've got to do it in a different way? Or it sounds like you got so much out of saving this one person. So
that's an excellent.
Where's the balance there?
Excellent point. And I do the big picture stuff. As I said, Talmud Torah School, Ronald McDonald House, been on the board of Vancouver General Hospital Foundation for 10 years, and I'm the past chair. And so that's doing big systemic, support work and things. But for me personally, this individual, being in all those cases, I want to have that individual contact with the people that are being helped. But this, as I said, bringing it directly into my life and embraced by my wife and my kids. Tesfaye has become an integral part of our family. And I paid for that very expensive surgery, notwithstanding our public medical system. I did it because I didn't want that to be an obstacle to him getting surgery here in Canada. And a friend of mine said, well, really, I mean, why are you doing that? All that money on one person, that same money could educate, thousands and thousands of people. But I said, yes, and there are many people doing that, fortunately. But there's also individuals that every life has value, and you never know the ripple effect of doing one act of kindness.
Well, this is wonderful work that you're doing, and it is interesting because you do work with organizations, but I see the joy it gives you to work with someone.
Yeah.
Someone who can become part of your family. There's a whole different energy to that seems to be, just meaningful for you.
My philosophy, I hope every day that just simple acts of kindness to someone, a simple hello, a smile, make someone feel that they matter and they mean something in this world. There's so many that don't even get that. We never know what's going on in somebody else's life, what's led up to that. So just just trying to be kind to someone, I think, is the simplest task we could all do of call it charity or philanthropy.
I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.